here on The Sweat, and I'm joined by a dynamic hockey duo, RotoWire senior hockey writer Paul Bruno and host of the Fantasy on Ice podcast for NHL.com, Pete Jensen. Fellas, this is NHL opening Faceoff. So you guys are giving us a DFS preview of tonight's huge 13-game NHL slate. So, Paul, let's start with your team, with your guy, Auston Matthews. He is the hottest player on the planet right now. 6 goals over his last 3 games. And Toronto hosting Arizona tonight, so he likely won't cool off in this one. He is going to cost you $9,400, most expensive player on the slate. So what do we think? Can you even make a case for fading Matthews?
I should say that I'm going to fade him just to watch you and fall off your chairs, but I'm not going to do that to you particularly. So I'm saying, sure, he cost $9,400, but he's the hottest player in the league, and the odds-on favorite to win the Hart Trophy is the MVP, I might add. Sorry that AJ's not here to hear that. But he has also the best matchup among all the big boys on the slate tonight, except maybe for Barkov in Florida, who cost $800 less and faces a Philly club that's easy pickings of late. But he's only got 5 goals in his last 10 starts. So, yeah, I'm on the Matthews train. The guy's got 10 goals, 16 points, 44 shots, outscoring everybody in the world. He's even averaging 19.3 DraftKings points per game all season, which is great.
Yeah, 37.5 fantasy points his last time out. So, Pete, what do you think? Are you going to make a case for fading Matthews?
I'm not, but there's so much value if you want to offset Matthews' high salary. You could go to some of the worst teams in the league and find immense fantasy value right now. Take the Blackhawks, for instance. Dylan Strome, 4,600 in DraftKings. He's got 3 straight multi-point games. Look at what's going on in the desert, the opposite side of that matchup against the Maple Leafs for the Coyotes with 17 goals in their past 2 games. And what Nick Schmaltz is doing, I know he's technically on the wing, but I mean, you should roster Auston Matthews and complement him with some of these guys either on the Blackhawks or the Senators or the Buffalo Sabres against the grain value against Jack Eichel. So I love some of these other storylines, like I just mentioned, to complement Matthews and spending up for him.
Okay, well, if you take Matthews, you may want to pair him with Mitch Marner on the wing. But $5K cheaper is Kirill Kaprizov of the Wild. He's going to take on a Detroit team that gave up 9 goals to Arizona on Tuesday. So, Pete, would you rather have Marner or Kaprizov tonight?
That's tough. I mean, I like the price point a little better for Kaprizov, but in general, I find myself building a mock lineup for tonight that's balanced, which includes a high-priced player like Matthews, but I'm looking at 2 wings. I'm looking at Alex Tuch, who faces his former team in the Vegas Golden Knights as a member of the Sabres. He's been a little quiet lately, but everybody's going to be flocking to the Eichel storyline, where I feel like Tuch is where you could really get the DFS value. 9 points, 33 shots in 11 home games. Maybe stack them with Tage Thompson if you're in a big contest. I don't think many people will probably be doing that. So, and Tage Thompson, we've seen this year, breaks the slate every couple of games, it seems like. So, yeah, between Alex Tuch and Nick Schmaltz, who I mentioned, has 11 points, 7 plus 4 in his past 2 games. So in the wing position, I'm kind of shifting my focus away from the higher priced guys and going with guys like Tuch and Schmaltz.
Paul, what's your strategy on the wing?
Well, I really like what my partner is saying today. But to answer the question another way, I think Kaprizov gets a great matchup against a Detroit team that's been absolutely getting crushed, averaging 6 goals against in their last 6 games played. And I think that makes a lot of sense over the Marner pick tonight, whether I'm committed to Matthews or not. Kirill the Thrill has 6 goals, 12 points, and 32 shots on goal, averaging 14 plus points per game in DK play. And the Yotes are playing a good brand of hockey that represent a stiffer test against Toronto. So I favor the Minnesota winger. And cheaper than both of these guys, though, is another relatively high-priced winger in Kyle Connor. He profiles similar to the other 2 fellas, 7 goals and 13 points in his last 10 games. And he gets a Jersey club. That's another of the league's weak sisters in terms of defensive record. He costs $7,500 tonight.
All right, well, we can't keep paying up for everyone, so maybe the strategy will be to save some money on defense. So who's a cheaper option on the blue line that could save you some money, Paul?
Well, I'm looking at a couple of guys that profile similarly in one-sided matchups to choose from. So Josh Morrissey of the Jets is the power play quarterback over there. He costs $4,900 tonight, and they get a nice matchup against New Jersey. for a guy who is averaging over 25 minutes a game. He's going to get a ton of offensive starts against that porous team. And for $100 less, you can choose Jared Spurgeon, who fills the same profile for Minnesota as they face that woeful Detroit club. I'll go with him, in fact, because of the Wings that have just been brutal lately, as I mentioned earlier.
All right, Pete, you already mentioned that you're looking to save some money on the wing, but you got a defensive option that could save you some cash too?
Yeah, I got two guys that I have in my mock lineup. One is a little higher priced, Noah Dobson, 6,000 in DraftKings against the Blue Jackets. He's having a breakout season. He's up to 30 points. He's got 10 goals. He's had 12 points in his past 12 games, and the Blue Jackets are allowing 3.83 goals per game over their past 6. They only have one win in that span, so they're kind of falling off here. And then Erik Karlsson, I have my eye on him against the LA Kings. He had 3 assists against them earlier in the year in the matchup, and he is sounds like he could maybe return from injury, the forearm surgery that he had. This guy was playing in rejuvenated hockey, was having a bounce back season. He's tied for 12th among defensemen in points per game this year, and he's joining a Sharks team that has fallen off a cliff without him. So I like the bounce back appeal for San Jose. Maybe not to win the game, but for Karlsson to return value at 4,400 if he plays against his rival Kings.
Okay, Pete, so who's your favorite overall value play on this massive slate?
We've been hard on Detroit in this segment so far, but I do like Jacob Vrana and what he brings to them for the rest of the season, because they are a team that even when they lose could score 4, 5, 6, even 7 goals, right? They scored 7 goals when they lost 10-7 to the Maple Leafs that one game. So they packed the offensive punch. Jacob Vrana came back from injury, shoulder surgery, had his season debut the other day, scored a power play goal with 3 shots on goal. He's not playing with Larkin right now, but I feel like over the course of the game, over the course of the season, down the stretch, he's going to be back with Larkin in a matter of time, and then he'll really pop off. This is one of the best even strength goal scorers in the NHL over the past 3 or 4 seasons combined that we're talking about.
Paul, what do you think? Favorite overall value play on this slate?
I look at a couple of guys who are playing second-line center minutes of late. Philip Deneau, cheap but productive option at center. He's found a scoring touch in LA. 7 points in his last 10 games played is just the tip of the iceberg. They're facing a Sharks team that may have a sign outside their arena looking for a goalie because their top 2 guys are sidelined. In fact, I note that our friend AJ's not here, and I have an idea that he might be packing his goalie gear and heading out to that site. I also really like Erik Haula, who has 8 points in his last 10 games. Look at the wingers he gets to play on the second line for Boston. Pasternak and Taylor Hall, 2 guys that can really light it up. And they got a matchup against a Chicago club that is known to give up some goals as well, particularly as they average over 4 against in their last 7 games.
All right, slate approved pick, please. Paul, who's your must roster player on tonight's slate?
Well, if Matthews and Marner are too expensive for your taste, why not take a look at the third guy on that line, Michael Bunting? For me, he's a must roster as clearly the cheapest player on that unit. The scorching hot offense that they're providing is unequaled around the league. He costs only $5,000. He gets to play his former club tonight, so extra motivation there for a guy who's got 13 points and 26 shots on goal in his last 10 games. The Panthers' Mason Marshman is a guy that I've highlighted regularly in these segments, and he's on the tear with Florida scoring better than a point per game over the past month. And this is still the highest scoring team in the league. So you got to look at a guy like him for $5,100 with a mismatch against the visiting Flyers. And cheaper than both of these guys, though, is Adam Henrique of the Devils for only $4,700. He's moved back to center ice, and he gets a matchup against Nashville, playing center the second unit here for the Ducks and riding a personal hot streak with 6 goals and 9 points in his last 10 outings. All 3 of these guys will bring down your average cost, and they fit the profile that I look for: favorable matchups and streaking scorers.
All right, Pete, what do you think your must-roster player on tonight's slate?
It's got to be ride the hot hand, Nick Schmaltz for me, 4,900 in DraftKings, facing the Maple Leafs, who we just caught word of, who will be without Jack Campbell for the next 2 weeks, and their goaltending is in rough shape to begin with. And I was looking at even strength save percentages around the league yesterday, and Peter Mrazek's even strength save percentage, I believe, is sub 900, which is really bad in relative to the rest of the league. So I like the Coyotes to score some goals here, And with what Schmaltz has done over the past 2 games, he's gotten himself up to 37 points in 37 games this season. Crazy stuff, but not surprising because he's playing with Clayton Keller. He's always been productive when he's been healthy. So some hidden value going on right now for the Yotes.